Week we're going to be talking about the early pace setters, which teams might need to hit that panic button already, because yes, even though we are only 2 rounds in, we're 20% of the way through. It's only 10 rounds. This is a sprint, not a marathon, as they keep telling us on the on the old Google box. And yes, we have an absolute moment of madness. So lots of stuff to cover this week. Hi, I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, your best place for rugby predictions and opinion. And joining me is Stephen Harris. How are you doing, sir?
Very good. Thank you, Paul. Good evening to your listeners. Once again, privilege and a pleasure to be on the TDM and the much travelled Paul, I believe, everywhere from Whangarei down to Tauranga. You're clocking up some mileage.
Or Rotorua, but yes, this weekend I was at the opening game, which was Northland versus Auckland. I came down to watch North Harbour versus Counties Manukau, and then on Sunday he drove all the way down to Rotorua for Bay of Plenty versus Waikato. So yeah, 3 games this weekend, plenty of mileage. If you'd like to help with my petrol, you can go to patreon.com/drivingmaul and help cover that. That'd be much appreciated. And yes, this is a live show at 8 p.m. every Monday. So if you want to join us for the live show, please do on YouTube, or you can listen to it on the podcast. Obviously, watch the recording as well. So kicking us off though, Northland versus Auckland, a 10-43 win for Auckland. Rather dominating performance by the Auckland versus North Auckland.
Well, before we even get there, Paul, I just want to basically grade the chips.
Yes.
We've got to grade the chips. We're taking the opportunity to check all the hot food around the various venues, or at least Paul is. And I think now they were the gourmet caravan, I think they called themselves.
Express Gourmet, I think it was.
Express Gourmet. And I'll give their chip probably a 6.5, 7 out of 10. So that was a pretty good start. Well, I've got to say, the chips were probably a little bit better, got a higher rating than Northland's performance. You've got to say, obviously, I was there for Radio Sport to call the game, so there was a bit of expectation after Northland had picked up a win in the first game against Southland. Not a comfortable win, but it was a very grumpy Auckland team and an Auckland team that came north and pretty much. How can I say? Pretty much bullied Northland. You've got to say at the end of the day, and I think the local fans, they got a good crowd, good turnout crowd on a Thursday night, but they probably walked away very disappointed.
No, absolutely, and you're right. They did get some. The physicality was certainly there. I had a chat with the head coach for Northland afterwards. I've just gone blank for his name. Sorry, I forgot that. But yeah, he was saying that they knew the physicality was coming. They knew Auckland were a physical team. But they just didn't stand up for it. I mean, knowing what's coming and dealing with it are two different things entirely. They early on. I mean, Northland did get the first points on the board, but that was short-lived, and it was at 3:24 at half time, and with a quick try after half time, it was all over. And Northland, I mean, in some ways, it's the scoreline for Anderson because they got their own try on the 80th minute when it was all over. So. It was. I mean, Northland had their moments of in the game, but couldn't get through that Auckland defence, which was pretty impressive. You've got to say. So, but I think a couple of players to call out about this one. I think Knock had a bit of a disappointing game in this one. Sam Knock, who was the scrum half for Northland, some disappointing decision making from him. And they really needed him and Jack, and also actually selection. So in this one, because putting Jack Debrasini as 15, when he came forward to 10, they looked much better. And they need that Knock Jack Debrasini combination at 9 and 10 really to guide this inexperienced team around.
Absolutely, you saw that sort of change in the second half when Hawkins was replaced and Debrasini went into that first 5 slot. The disappointing thing for Northland with Debrasini running at the line. There were 2 or 3 occasions where there was just no runner off his shoulder. He basically pretty much pierced the gap, got past the guard dogs, but there was no support on the inside. And ironically, the try that they did score right at the very end, once again, came off a little sharp Jack Debrasini dab, where he was able to get the offload. I felt a little sorry for Sammy Knock because, like I say, I think Auckland put so much pressure on it at the breakdown. I can't recall a lot of times where Northland actually got clean ball. It was very, very messy. Those Auckland forwards would just basically walk through and either walk straight over the ball or disrupt it in some way. So all in all, we never got to see the Northland back line. We never got to really see their most dangerous back, Jordan Highland, with any sort of ball. Any sort of clean possession, and it was unfortunately it was a long day at the office for the Northland team. I thought in terms of from a Northland point of view, before I get to Auckland, I thought the only guy that really came out of the game with any credit was probably Jacob Mitre, the very, very physical number 8. He has a sort of like a Jordan Toforce type statue, and boy, he doesn't suffer fools. He was the one player who really put himself about, and unfortunately he needed 7 other mates to be in the same sort of mood, but they were missing.
They were missing and that's the problem. Now Auckland had some players missing as well. I mean, they lost some players for the last 2 weeks. They've had players drop out the site at the last minute, and Ruru was the one to disappear. Ruru made it this time. Plummer was the one to go this time, and we had a really young fly half from Pepitoe?
Yeah, from Papatoi, D'Angelo Leolia, who, obviously, I think he pretty much came in. I think the injury happened to Plummer during the training, so that's how late this youngster came in. And I'll tell you what, he looked like a veteran out there. Looked like he was had been around for a very long time. I saw D'Angelo probably about 4 years ago as a 17-year-old playing for the Papatoetoe Rugby Club, and I could see his talent there, but for some reason hasn't quite sort of cracked the top Auckland side. He hasn't played a hell of a lot of games for Auckland, but yeah, he was all class. Well, once again, on the back of a very, very good performance from the back line, and when you've got the likes of Rayasi at the back, Tilia out there in the centres, Auckland were dangerous. They pretty much got a lot of threats in their back line. The last thing you want to do is give them a whole heap of possession.
Absolutely. He was given a good ride by his pack, and he had weapons to use outside him. But even so, he still had a good game. Still for a youngster, and still ran things around. So that was Thursday night. Friday night, we had 2 games because of the Bledisloe Cup on Saturday. Kicking us off was North Harbour versus Counties. Now, Counties, coming off the back of a game where they dominated the scrum and the line out against Taranaki, but still lost. Coming this one, we thought, well, they're in for a bit of a tough night tonight, but that wasn't to be. They came in and again dominated the set piece with their scrum, with their line out. Also, we saw Harbour technically had some real problems with their discipline in that first half, and that just meant that Counties got themselves out to a real nice 15-22 lead. Well, actually, they got themselves out to a 7-22 lead at half by the half-hour mark, but it came back in slightly to 15-22. And talking to their assistant, Sam, I've gone blank. The assistant ref
Sam Ward.
Sam Ward, that's right, of Harbour. After the game, I try to be nice and suggest that maybe they couldn't cope with the referee's interpretations, and he was like, no, that was our skills. But we've got some work to do this week, and so he's going to definitely be getting them, beasting them around that discipline this week, because it was really off in that first half.
Yeah, one thing that sort of impressed me about Counties Manukau, they just seemed to latch on to every chance that came available in the first half, Paul. And really, I know Harbour came back and scored about 10 points just before halftime. So really, once again, going in at 22-15 at halftime, I thought that score actually flattered North Harbour because Counties had been the dominant team. And one player I really enjoyed, or a couple of players I really enjoyed watching. One was the Chris Kuranjani, the former, I think he played Brumbies, if I recall.
Yep.
Paul, I thought he was really, really good, and ended up bagging a couple of tries, and he looked really, really good. But one player who really impressed me now, I understand they have an Irishman in the front row of O'Donnell, I think his name is, and he was really impressive. Started on the tight head side of the scrum, and then moved across to the, I started on the loose head side of the scrum, beg your pardon, and then moved across to the tight end and pretty much played the full 80. And he was very impressive.
Yeah, and Harbour did close it up to a 2 point game just after the just after half time, but then Counties took it away from them with a couple of tries, and even a late penalty try from a scrum out of the post. Now talking to the head coach afterwards, well, just sitting from the coach's box, you can see them banging the tables, and they were so happy when that happened. But he was like, "Oh dear, our scrum has not been consistent today," and he thought they'd made the wrong choice. But hey, he likes to trust the players out there and let them have a go, and the players delivered for him on the night.
Oh,
but yeah, you're absolutely right. Kieran Drani has been a late replacement, a late guy they got in because of some injuries, and he's taking his opportunity very well.
Mm-hmm. I thought he was. I just thought after halftime when Duffy scored with that brilliant finish in the corner, and it got back to 22-20. I thought, he maybe home ground advantage. They'd take control, and then we actually saw a phase of play. We saw a period of play where Harbour put a lot of field position, but they weren't really amounting to a hell of a lot. And I thought during that time, Counties Manukau defended really, really well, and then broke out with a try of their own to Kurandrani. So it was really about taking those opportunities. Listen, I was really impressed. I know you had the likes of the number 7 Dylan Hunt playing. Who's an All Black playing on the open side for Harbour, but I actually thought he was well and truly outplayed by Sam Henwood. I thought Hen was absolutely superb, and it just seems to me the Counties Manukau have got a very good line-out as well. And in that case, Joe Royal just seemed to hit his targets pretty much 99.9% of the time. I can only recall them just losing the one line-out, Paul. So I think they were well deserved. They'd been all around, and at the end of the day, finished over the top of Counties. Beg your pardon, North Harbour.
Yeah, and I think something that the coach has. You think Andrew Kellaway has come in pretty late, the Australian player who's going to go play for the Rebels next year. Kieran Drani came in late as well. Whilst they're not saying this, I think that Counties have had quite a few injuries in their back line, so they've got a set piece that really works in their scrum and their line out, both looking really good, especially with their starting 15 anyway. It tends to slacken off a bit in the second half, the scrum especially. But I think that maybe they've had that they're going to they're taking a couple of games just their back line to get used to playing with each other, and then they might click. So here's a team that I'm expecting to actually perhaps improve during the season. After that, we had what you called in our pre-match chat the game of the round on the early game on Saturday, Hawke's Bay versus Wellington. We were split on this one with our predictions last week, and for good reason it appears, because this one finished 27-all. We had the Irish ref refereeing this one, and if you want to have a quick listen to the to him and also the Welsh ref who took on the Manawa 2 game the following day, then you can become a supporter of DrivingMaul at patreon.com/DrivingMaul, where I have a chat with both of those refs. You have a quick look behind the scenes. This one was one that went each way, didn't it? Early on, Hawke's Bay got themselves a line-out maul and took a 5-point lead. But then we had Wellington come back into it with and sort of build up a lead up to half time. Both sides seemed to sort of failed with opportunities. I mean, we had a drop ball over the line for Bay of Plenty, and Wellington also had a try disallowed or a try butchered as well. This one was going either way. Wellington looked to have taken control of it in that second half, and then we had a moment where basically Ben may have actually lost the game because he charged a penalty, which was missed. The retake went over, and when it's a draw, that's maybe that was the decision that decided the game.
It was definitely one of those crazy moments, or we call them the Mickey Mouse moments. Just really, it was an interesting start because the Hawke's Bay team went to work early, and they went to their strength, which is that line-out drive. They do that very, very well. They've already knocked up a few tries. I think that 4 of their tries they scored were against Manawatu the previous week. I think we're from pretty much driving more tries. So they've definitely got that down pat. I suppose the lesson for any team playing them, don't give them that sort of field advantage in the red zone, especially if you're 10, 15 metres out from the line. And then we saw Wellington. Tariki Ben Nicholas, who I thought was outstanding for Wellington, came back with what I thought was a bit of a soft try, couple of missed tackles, and then we saw this crazy moment where basically it was a high kick went up and it sort of bounced in the arms of I think it was Danny Toala, and he made a break down the left flank through the inside pass to the flanker O'Connor. Now O'Connor, for some reason, he should have probably just dived, and he would have probably slid across the line, decided to try and fend, and while he was trying to fend, obviously the other arm, which was free, he went to dive and lost the ball in the midst of diving. Now from that defending scrum where you'd think Wellington would basically just kick it out, go start again, go to the 10th position, they scored an absolute peach of the try, probably one of the best tries of the Mitre 10 Cup this year, where a long cutout pass hit the centre. I'm not too sure who the actual centre was, but it ended up in the hands of Vince Arsaw around about 45 metres out, and he was gone for all money, wasn't he? And that was just a fantastic try. But I'll tell you what, Hawke's Bay once again they bounced back. They bounced back again, and once again from a series of drives close to the Wellington line. And you just thought, well, it's going to be one of those games, and then right on not quite on halftime, on the 32nd minute, Wellington again with a brilliant break down that left flank from Tereki Ben Nicholas, who beat one tackle and just showed some amazing pace. Looked like a Via Fafita galloping down that left flank, and a couple of passes later, it was Hauiti Parapara in for the try. And 17-12, and Hawke's Bay must have been scratching their head at halftime.
Well, this is it, isn't it? We've got a couple of sides here that we're getting a couple of themes here. We've got your counties, your Hawke's Bay, your Bay of Plenties, who really are based around their set piece and looking at dominating you. Also, I mean Tasman to a certain degree as well. They just pretty much do everything. Then you got your sides like Wellington, Southland not doing it very well. Perhaps Taranaki as well, but weather made it difficult to tell this week. Who are much more about the counter-attacking sides. Don't necessarily have the strength up front to take teams on, and so what they're looking for is whenever the forwards are tied in, spin it and let their backs have a go, and try running stuff back and try counter-attacking. And Wellington is one of those. This was one of those games where we had a contrast of styles of your forward-orientated Hawke's Bay against your counter-attacking Wellington, and I say we're going to find that come up time and time again this season, because we've got some teams, or quite a few teams that are one way or the other in this. A draw, fantastic result for Hawke's Bay. It's because you've got to say for them, because hey, this is one of their cross divisional games. So to get anything out of it is for the championship side is really good. For Wellington, wow, this is a tough start for them now. Lost to Tasman and had a draw with their cross, with one of their cross pool games, which as a Premiership side you're expecting to pick up your wins there. Wellington's have had a real tough start to this season. Not what we were kind of necessarily expecting.
Well, Paul, I've got to say, what was incredible, what they were down, 27, 27-19, was it, with about sort of 3 minutes to go. So
yep.
Basically, you know what, if you sort of, the key moment might have been when McClutchy missed the actual conversion to Markinez try, but boy, I got to say, that was well put together. Nice little short pass off the boy Emerson, and boy, didn't he show some pace. I actually thought when he got to the fullback and beat the fullback, he was going to go over the way, and it was only really the pace of Wes Houston that basically that actually dragged him down from behind. And then McClutchy just seemed to hurry the conversion, didn't steady himself, because really and truthfully, that last penalty that they could have been the winning penalty, as opposed to the penalty that drew the game. But you also think back to the moment of madness from in the 75th minute, when Ben May decided to charge Jackson Garden Bishop's penalty as well. Probably at the end of the day, I think Hawke's Bay will probably be kicking themselves more than Wellington. I think Wellington will probably be a little bit happy to ride out a dodge, because there were times of. One thing I will say about this Hawke's Bay, boy, they've got a lot of youngsters, the likes of McClutchy, Tuala. You've also you chuck in the flanker, Flanders, Whakatava, the halfback. There's probably about a half a dozen really, really young guys in this team. Kennedy Symes, the replacement hooker. Man, their future is looking really, really good, and they're quite lucky that they've got some really experienced heads and Gareth Evans and O'Connor and Dixon. I was actually going to mention Ben May there, but that maybe not the person we're sort of looking for. So there's enough experienced heads, and let's not forget they've still got a few guys to basically come back. Big Chiefs Lock, who he just basically
Allardyce.
He's
but I mean,
still,
just about every team's got a few players that can come back. But when you can put someone like Walker Lowry on the bench and Ben May, you've got depth in your pack. Absolutely. A couple of names. I thought Emerson reminded me a little bit of Braden Ennor, when I've seen him running around. And Tuala is definitely he's one of the names for the future. I think in that centres. His only problem is the number of centres. I mean, because we look at Wellington. And you've got the Amanga Jensen brothers, you've got Garden Bishop brothers, you've got Proctor brothers. I mean, that's a brother. That seems to be a bit incestuous there. But there's this, and when we add in Quinn, I've gone blank for the surname, from Waikato,
Quinn Tupaia,
there's an awful lot of young centres, second 5/8s and centres running around at the moment who are looking really, really useful.
Yeah, it's a real good thing. This would be remiss of me not to mention there were two teams out there, and a couple of players that really impressed me. Tereki Ben Nicholas, the number 8, looks like one for the future. We're all sort of talking, and we were talking about, I think maybe a couple of weeks ago, about our depth at number 8. Once Kieran Reid heads away, there's not a lot of 8s around, but here's right that's coming through. I thought Duplessis Karufi was very good as well. Got some real vital turnovers, and he just basically stopped a lot of momentum for Hawke's Bay, especially in that first half. We saw brief moments of what Amua is capable of. I just thought the Hawke's Bay front row, I think they shadowed Wellington in that area, but I was also impressed with Josh Furno, the Australian who's played for Italy. I think that's a real good pickup. He's a good pickup.
They've really needed that, and they need the weight in their forwards.
Yeah, absolutely. And just in the backs, I suppose you really couldn't go past Vince Arso and Wes Hewson. My God, he's seriously quick, isn't he?
He is. He's a very good player, Wes Hewson. He's also a very good thinking player.
Listen, game of the round. You just definitely got to say it.
It was, and one of the things that's been different from this round from last round, it rained in every game. This round we had sort of some semi-wet games, some dry games. The Auckland, Northern Auckland was a dry game. Most of the games were semi-wet, but this next one, Manawa 2, Taranaki. This really was. I mean, I don't think anyone expected Manawa 2 to keep Taranaki within 3, but weather can be a great leveller. And this was a wet game. And that goes straight against Taranaki's strengths. Because Taranaki, I say, is one of those counter-attacking sides. Players like Naholo in the back line, the Sean Wainui, Potros, all those guys, really good counter-attacking players. A team you're not going to want to kick to very often. Now, in this game, Waisaki Naholo got rested, and his younger brother, Kimi Naholo, came in instead. But even so, the you still expected Taranaki to go away with this one, but the weather really was really against all their strengths. They did get line
Yeah,
out maul to take a 7-0 lead, um, and but then Manawatu came back very well. Grubber in, the winger touched it down. Jamie Booth nips in, and suddenly they get a 10-7 lead after 25 minutes. I must admit, I've only watched the highlights of this one, but yeah, it was it's both sides missed penalties. Oh, see, no, sorry, not the best. Sorry, Turbo's missed a penalty. I don't think, and I think that basically came down to being the difference between these two teams was one kick. So another one of these teams where Taranaki, you say, got the points, got out of Dodge, because that was a frightful game.
yeah, yeah. It was an interesting game. You sort of spoke about sort of players who have played for other unions. Hayden Bidwell Curtis, of course, ex Manawatu man playing for Taranaki these days. He seemed to be at the centre of a lot of niggle, shall I say. I'm not too sure what that was all about, but maybe just basically letting a lot of the Manawatu players know that they're still missing him more than anything else. But there was a real key moment in this game, Paul, and it was about 8 minutes into the second half where Manawatu, whose line-out was probably wasn't the best, you've got to say, decided to turn down, in my opinion, what was a very kickable penalty, mid-22, sort of mid-22 and goalpost sort of thing and touchline. And they decided to kick for the corner. And I just thought at the time 3 points would have just taken you out to 13 points to 10. And you could just basically play the long game, just keep pinning Taranaki back because you had the wind behind you, but they failed to take the opportunity, and of course failed with a couple of opportunities that were on off. Obviously, ball handling really, really tough, and a couple of players who really, really impressed me in these conditions were the two halves for Taranaki, Tatoiroa Tahuarangi and Daniel White. Were very, very good, along with Sean Wainui. Whenever you needed somebody to cut it up through the middle, you just threw the ball out to Wainui. And you mentioned Potros at the middle, his attacking flair, but boy, he's got a good skill set. Just didn't look like dropping any ball. And really, it was just a case of once they got their opportunity to kick their points, Waite had a shot at goal, nailed it, and you just felt, gee, these guys, whenever they had the ball, they were going to hold on to it. So, yeah, there was a certain irony that most of the game after that penalty was kicked, even though Manawatu had the win, was basically played mostly in Manawatu's half in the last 15 minutes.
Yeah, I am worried for Manawatu. One of the things we'll talk about in the second half of the show is we'll be talking about the All Blacks that are coming back into, they've been released their teams, and you got to say, Jackson Hemapo coming back for Manawatu is going to be one of those ones that's really going to bolster this side next weekend. So yeah, I think they'll be looking forward to having a bit more ballast, a bit more experience back in them. One place where we don't have to worry about the weather is Otago, where we had a shield defence underneath the roof. A really good atmosphere by the sounds of things in there, and having an enclosed stadium helps with that. But I thought they had a decent atmosphere for this one. Otago got themselves a nice early try, but seemed to spend the rest of the half basically making errors until picking up a few more points just before half time to take a 17-3 lead. An early try in the second half by Otago, and basically the game's done and dusted at 24-3. Yes, Southland had their moments in that second half, and we saw last week that they can really attack. They can counter-attack. Problem is, they ship points. And so whilst they had their moments in that second half, they never really got within touching distance of Otago, and Otago just kept them at arm's length and kept things turning over, and kept that scoreboard turning over. A relatively easy shield defence for Otago there.
Yeah, once again, we speak about key moments. One of the key moments for me was pretty much right on half time where Southland were just playing out time for half time. They concede a penalty. Otago kicks to the corner, and from the resulting line-out drive, Slade McDowell scores the try. It's converted by Koroi, and pretty much it's 17-3 at halftime as opposed to 10-3. And then you kind of want a good start straight after the second half, and then a fantastic individual try from Dylan Nell when he ran about 40 odd meters and sidestepped a couple of people and then ran around the last defender. This is number 8 we're talking about. In between that, there wasn't a heck of a lot of tackling, and you thought it was gone for all money. And then basically Morby scored a try from a high kick, chased Marty McKenzie high kick, nabbed it, and you thought, well, maybe they're a chance, but unfortunately, no sooner had they scored their try, a minute later they turned ball over and Nariki went into the corner. Koroi kicked the conversion, and it was pretty much good night nurse. And not long after that, Dixon scores, Koroi converts, and that was around about the 57th minute. And pretty much from there on out, it was just a case of what the score was going to be, Paul.
Absolutely, it was. Yeah, it was just what and yeah. So Otago, well done. I mean, the obviously got an absolute hammering last weekend at Bay of Plenty, who we'll talk about in a couple of moments. But yeah, that's you do wonder a little bit as to how much is Otago just thinking about the Shield and nothing else this season. I don't think they're until they lose it. I think they're going to be a bit distracted for their away games.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree with that. And I think there were times in that performance, and once again, poor old Southland struggled a wee bit in the set piece area, so couldn't get anything going. But I will say, I think Otago will struggle against better teams.
Yep. Luckily for them, their next defence in a couple of weeks' time is against Manawatu, who isn't necessarily well. At the moment, everyone's better than Southland, but they're not that much better.
Yeah.
Two of the top teams, though, did have a clash. Not only did they clash on the pitch, but their jerseys clashed as well. We get this every season. You watch a game of Canterbury versus Tasman, and you're not really sure who is who, because their jerseys are just so similar. To be honest, Bay of Plenty versus Waikato wasn't much better, which was yellow stripes and white shorts against each other. And we've got. Thankfully, Auckland are not playing Hawke's Bay this year, because that's a dark blue and white stripes against black and white stripes. But I think another one that's going to be. But we do have Taranaki versus Bay of Plenty, which is going to be black and yellow versus blue and yellow. Those two really do. Again, I'm expecting a big shirt clash there. So yeah, plenty of shirt clashes. We'll get on to your question in a second, but this one, a poor kick chase by Canterbury early on let Tasman get their opening, run it back and get their opening try. They then just decided they just weren't going to bother trying to tackle the Whianga Kuku, who could be, that's his third try this season. He could be the sensation this season. He a bit like Sever Reese last year. He could be the guy that sort of stands out and comes from nowhere, but because he was looking really powerful. But yeah, Canterbury just never looked in this one. Sure, it didn't blow out. Tasman didn't get the bonus point that perhaps they might have expected to, but Canterbury, just never really got themselves into this game or within touching distance of Tasman. Tasman's pack is phenomenal. Let's be honest. Not in the same way that sort of Bay of Plenties and counties are around the set piece, but just the mobility and at that game line. When you got Shannon Frizzell as a lock, you're going to have a lot of power getting yourself over that game line, and you're going to have lots of mobility as well. And that's what we're seeing with this Tasman side. If you're not going to front up against them, you're just going to be on the back foot the whole game. And apart from Luke Romano, most of this Canterbury pack were second best for during this game.
Oh, they were bested by a long way. They were able to hold the ball. The problem is they weren't getting over the advantage line, Paul. It was very, very slow ball. They were really getting beasted on the advantage line, and basically, in effect, all they were doing was shuffling ball from side to side. So during that period, pretty much in the first half, all they were really doing was denying Tasman ball, but Tasman always looked dangerous. Every now and again, they'd let themselves down with an error of sort. Yeah, Whaiunuku's try. It was a very good try, but boy, there was some woeful tackling in that. He trampled about 3 guys on his way to the try line, Paul. So real disappointing in that respect. Crazily enough, though, 18-3 at half time. Only 5 points each scored by each team in the second half, which was a little crazy. I must admit, good try taken by Mackay. Showed some really serious pace from the turnover, and to be honest, he seemed like he was Canterbury's best weapon throughout the whole game.
Yeah, and coming off the back of scoring 2 and having 1 disallowed in his previous game, Mackay is looking really good. Part of the apparently was played in the same school side as Will Jordan, I think. So look, yeah, that's definitely a. If you imagine facing those 2 guys as schoolboys, so yeah, he is. So yeah, clearly another youngster coming through with great prospects. You've got to wonder where he's the kind of guy that might be a great replacement for Ben Smith down in the Highlanders. And that's if I were the Highlanders, I'd be looking to see if he's already been snaffled up by the Crusaders or not, because he could be a good catch for them down there.
Well, one guy I know, I was going to say, Paul, one guy I know has been snapped up by the Crusaders, and I thought he was the best for Tasman, was Ethan Blackadder. His work rate in this game was absolutely phenomenal. I don't know how many carries he had, but it would have been a few. But I thought he was very, very good in a very strong forward effort, and it made life very easy for Christie. I thought Havili at the back was classy, all class as well.
Yeah, you look at those sort of players like Quinton Strange, Frizzell, Blackadder, Tafua, Havili in that Mako's pack, and they're all guys, you say, big guys, adding Tua Lomax, who will tackle and get and stop you on the game line, but they're not snafflers. And I think that's basically why you say you can retain possession against them, but you're just not going to go anywhere, which is the thing. And I think, Tasman are looking like one of the top teams for this competition. Before we get on to the last game, though, we have an important question from the audience. Will Monk would like to know which team you think has the strongest attacking intent. Who would turn down kicks at the post most? He's looking for a team to support in the Mitre 10 Cup, and he wants a team that just goes all-out attack and doesn't bother defending by the sounds of it.
All-out attack. I would probably Hawke's Bay's more of a set piece team. After watching Wellington, I think Wellington's that team which will try and throw the ball around, and I base that on that try they scored from 100 metres out, and their willingness just to basically throw it wide whenever they can. They've got some issues at the set piece scrum, I've got to say, but they'll be worth a watch if you want to plug your team on one particular side.
You would. I'd never recommend Auckland, Wellington, or Canterbury really, because they're the big 3 centres in New Zealand. So I'm going to recommend Taranaki. I think Taranaki with your Waisaki Naholos and Sean Wainuis, I think you'll see plenty of lovely attacking rugby from Taranaki. Let down this weekend by the weather, but I think if you're going to find yourself a regional province to back Taranaki if you're looking for an attacking team.
I've got one.
Go on.
We haven't quite got to the last game, but I'll give you a reason why. Any team that's got Chase Tiatia at the back has got attacking intent, and I think the Steamers. And if you look at some of the wings that they've got as well, they've got good grief, I'll get to it in a minute. When you've got the likes of Ravovo on the wing, you've got the likes of Fuatai, and boy, a new exciting young talent who's coming out. I don't even know his first name, but second name is Narawa. He looks lightning. And man, I think they're going to play a good brand of rugby this year.
Yeah, Amoni Nawara came on and yeah, say really did look good as when he came on. So yeah, so coming on to that last game, then we had Bay of Plenty versus Waikato. So Bay of Plenty, the championship side against Waikato, the Premiership side. And with these crossover competitions, it's the Premiership sides really need these wins, and the Championship sides just trying to get anything out of it they can. And initially, Waikato looked good. I mean, Quinn Tapea slipped through and scored the opening try to give Waikato the opening the 7-0 lead. The problem was he just didn't get his hands on the ball enough for the rest of the game. He is their game breaker, and to me, he is somebody that Waikato need to get the ball into the hands of as frequently as possible, because he is causing some really big problems for opposition teams. He led on clean breaks, defenders missed, and something else last week across the whole competition. So I say they missed him, and then basically we had Bay of Plenty. As Pack went to work, and they went and got themselves 3 tries, or was it 4 tries? I think it's in that first half. I think it was 4 tries at the end. Judd put down, but hey, that was all down to the scrum, and then he took the. He finished it off for them. We had they bashed over under the post after a line out. Sorry, they took an easy 3, so it was 3 tries. And then Joe Ravovo, who you mentioned, ex-New Zealand Sevens player, burst through. He seemed to sort of suddenly run into some quicksand in the 22 and slowed down a bit, but hey, he still made it to the line and scored. Getting on a bit at 28. Maybe he's not quite got the same pace he used to have. But again, just before half time, Waikato get the ball into Quinn's hands and he scores. And suddenly, and Waikato undeservedly back in it at sort of at 22-14 at half time. But yeah, that forward pack from Bay of Plenty, where you've got Aidan Ross, Nathan Harris, Ross, Glenn Hines, that front row really does pack a punch.
Yeah, no, you're right. Just on that pronounce that's Ross Hallenhays, well-travelled
Helen
guy.
Hines, sorry.
He's a well-travelled guy. I know that he's turned out for Tasman as well. He's also turned out for the I think the Highlanders, Golden Lions in South Africa. So he's been around, very experienced. But they've also got Jeff Thwaites as well, and they've also got McHugh, Tom McHugh, former Auckland prop as well. So there's a little bit of depth on that bench. And boy, they don't lack a bit of power as well in that middle row, especially with former Tasman man Alex Ainley. Yeah, a lot of power, good hard-working loose forward trio, and Martin Kapik and Blake. They've really got it going on at the moment. And basically, as far as I'm concerned, the guy who puts it all together at the back is Chase Tiatia, and at this level, he's just superb. And doesn't he have a wonderful ability to sniff out opportunities? If opportunities are on, boy, he's able to find them.
But also him and Hollinshead, one of the other things they managed to do really well against Waikato was they've both got booming boots on them, and they would often get it over the heads of the fullback and the wingers. And if you're finding grasp and turning those players with those kicks, you really have got another lovely weapon in your arsenal, because that just opens the pitch up so much, gives you nice territory, allows your kick chase time to get in those players' faces, and yeah, it's not just sniffing that opportunity and going for it. It's knowing, as you say, it's when he goes for it, because he is happy to pin the opposition back as well. Waikato really got caught napping, and perhaps for their own worst enemies in the second half. Tap and go, and that boy Nawaya, who you mentioned, who came off the bench, scored a try. Discipline then really became Waikato's issue, which let Bay of Plenty just take the threes when they weren't able to break down the Waikato defence to keep that scoreboard ticking over. And then a couple more tries in the dying minutes meant that actually perhaps the scoreline was a bit bigger than it needed to be. but they really did manage to get a big lead. Austrian asks, was that bad positional play by the back three? Maybe there's an element of that, but Chase Tiatia does have a booming boot on him, and whether and I can't believe it was continuously purely down to bad positioning. Surely they would have learned and moved, taken a few steps back. But anyway,
I was going to say, Paul, one thing that the Waikato players and their coaching staff won't enjoy looking at is the Joe Ravovo try, because the tackling, no disrespect, but some of the tackling in that the lead up to that try was pretty woeful. You've got to say he should have been stopped at the advantage line, and even a couple of players fell over their own feet, and that would be really, really disappointing. When you think about it, 18 unanswered at in the second half, pretty convincing to Bay of Plenty, and they'll certainly enjoy putting away their Chiefs partners. So they end up with the the Chiefs Cup or whatever it's called, Paul.
So yes, they picked up the Chiefs Cup. So the Chiefs Cup is works similarly to the Ranfurly Shield in that it's defended, but it's defended home and away. And the four teams that compete for this are counties, Taranaki, Waikato, and Bay of Plenty. So every game between them counts. So Bay of Plenty will now take that. I'm not sure when their first defence of that will be, because next weekend, who are they playing? They're playing Auckland next weekend, so it won't be up for defence next weekend. But I think much more important in reality is the points on offer for the table. Let's have a quick look at the table. It's going to bring it up on screen for everybody, or the two tables. First off, we've got just going to move the screen so I can see all the names. Oh, where should I put myself? I'll put it up here. First off, so Tasman top the Premiership. They didn't pick up a try bonus point this week, so they top the table on 9. Auckland with a win and draw and a bunch of bonus points sit on 8 on second place. Counties, surprising us all, I think, especially after that first round loss to Taranaki, sit in 3rd. Waikato sit in 4th with North Harbour, and then Wellington on 3 points and Canterbury on just 2. This is the first time since 1996 that Canterbury have lost their opening 2 games. So that's and that was against Counties Manukau and Wellington. So next weekend when they face Wellington, that is going to be a massive game for them because you got to say that Canterbury, if they lose another one, they'll be hitting that panic button, won't they?
Paul, I was going to say, I think I just heard a huge cheer coming from the direction of Mount Roskill. It might be coming from Ashwin's place. That's the Premiership. Looking in the Championship, Bay of Plenty are the only perfect team so far. 10 points, 2 try bonus point wins, sees them top of the table with Taranaki second. Now, Bay of Plenty and Taranaki have both picked up wins over the Premiership team, so they are both in a very good position at the top of the table there. Hawke's Bay then comes in next, and those 3 are going to be in that are going to be basically in a playoff picture. Yeah.
It's then going to be between Otago and Northland, you'd think, who for that next place. Both of them, as you can see, a bit of a gap between those top 3 and those 2 already. And then you've got Manawatu on 1 point and Southland with nothing. Both teams with 2 losses at the bottom there. So I think it's going to be a long old season for Manawatu and Southland, unfortunately for them. And Manawatu, I don't know if it was just the weather at the weekend, but having only conceded 44 points so far, it looks like they can defend, but maybe not score points. Whereas Southland, they just ship points, unfortunately, but can score points.
I was going to say the other disappointing thing for that local union as well. They've had 2 home games, and listen, the conditions on Saturday were pretty surreal. You've got to say, it's not often you see a ground that looks absolutely waterlogged. Probably not quite as bad as Apia a few weeks ago, Paul, but it didn't look too great. And if you think back to their first game against Hawke's Bay. That was also played in pretty damp conditions as well. So you really feel sorry for the local union down there, its supporters. I mean to say, it just really, when you're not getting any wins and it's being played in bad conditions, it certainly hurts the finances, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. I couldn't see the Bucketheads on TV, so they've obviously been rained out of their normal sitting spot that they have in the ground. I have been up there. I've shown you I won't get my green bucket out again. I've done that before.
I've seen it before.
We have seen it before.
Yeah.
But one thing I have got that I should do is everybody, don't forget, you should obviously subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to get the bell on.
Oh no!
So that you get your notifications. So there you go.
God.
With my Waikato cowbell there for you, everybody. So round 3. Now, round 3 is going to be really kind of interesting because we have had a host of All Blacks released. Brad Weber, Liam Coltman, Vai Fafita, Braden Ennor, Atu Moli, Jackson Hemapo, Rico Iwani, and Luke Jacobson have all been released to play in the Mitre 10 Cup this weekend. And it's going to be interesting to see how many other how many others will get done over the next couple, or how many will get released over the next couple of weeks. Obviously, some will actually get released because they don't make it to the Rugby World Cup, because they're not all going to be available, all going to be there. But yes, that could have a bit of a weight on the game this weekend. Kicking us off then on Thursday night, Hawke's Bay versus Otago. Brad Weber back for Hawke's Bay, Liam Coleman and Josh Iwani back for Otago. And so I'm going to cough.
While you're coughing, I will basically come up with my prediction. Listen, I think Hawke's Bay are on a bit of a roll at the minute. Josh Iwani will definitely be a wee bit of a help, but I think this is a Hawke's Bay team that's travelling pretty well at the moment, and they'd probably feel a bit irritated that they missed out against Wellington in their last game. So I'm going to go Hawke's Bay, but I'm going to go 12 and under.
Wow, I've gone Hawke's Bay by 10. I'm expecting them to get the win. I also think the disruption of Brad Weber coming in is to be much less than Josh Iwani. I think he'll slot back in very easily into that crowd and do well. Wellington versus Canterbury. Now, Vai Fafita back for Wellington, Braden Ennor back for Canterbury. Fafita will be a welcome addition to that pack because, hey, they do need some strengthening there. Canterbury, off the back of 2 losses, in 2 teams here that really do need wins. I've gone Canterbury by 3. I just say I can't see them losing 3 on the trot.
Wow, this is a fascinating game, isn't it? That'll be unheard of if Canterbury wins 3 in a row. Wellington, I'm with you. I think Canterbury will take this, and once again, I'm looking at a 12 and under game.
Yep. So 2 tight ones that would be interesting to watch to start off with. But I say that Wellington Canterbury one is one to watch. That should be game of the round this weekend.
Yeah.
Tasman versus Manawatu. Atu Moli back for Tasman. Jackson Hemapo back for Manawatu. Sorry, Manawatu, but this is going to be painful. I've got Tasman by 30.
Oh God, you could be right. Why do they need Atu Moli? They've got enough. Have you not seen their depth?
I think it's more that he needs game time rather than they need him.
Yeah, absolutely. And Manawatu, listen, Hemapo will add a bit of starch to Manawatu, but I'd like to know what the weather's like down in the Tasman area on the weekend. You know what? I will. Probably Tasman by about 18 points.
I talked to Nick Creswell last year. Had an interview with him about the difference between being playing in Europe and playing in New Zealand. He one of the players that he mentioned off camera that they really missed was Jackson Hemapo last year when he became an All Black. Yeah. So they'll love the fact that he's back. Auckland Bay of Plenty. Wow, that's going to be a cracker up at Eden Park. Rico Iwani back for Auckland. Oh, I've I think I've probably gone against Bay of Plenty in every game so far, unfortunately. But I think I'm going to do it again.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Auckland by 5. I mean, Bay of Plenty have put up some impressive results against Otago and Waikato, but Auckland are one of the big three for me in this competition, and that's that to me is, I think it's going to be a step too far for them. I think they're going to find that their scrum will won't have the dominance it's had. I still think they'll definitely hold the scrum and maybe be slightly dominant against Auckland, but they're not going to collapse them like other teams, like they have been able to against other teams. And I think Auckland by 5 for me.
I'll go by Auckland 12 and over.
Wow, you're going big.
I'm going to go big. I think Rico Ioane's going to have he's got plenty. He's got a lot to play for this weekend. I think you'll probably find that Akira Ioane will come back into the team. Mm-hmm. You'll find that Papa Ali will come back into the team. So they'll put a strong team on the paddock, Paul. I think they'll be too strong.
I think we might see Papa Ali back for Bay of Plenty as well. He was out for a small injury this weekend.
Yeah. The other Papa Ali.
And seeing Papa Ali against Akira Ioane is going to be fascinating.
Oh yeah, two big men.
Two very big men.
Bumfa, as Justin Marshall would say.
Yes.
Yeah, really looking forward to that game. Might try and get along actually.
Well, at the moment, I'm a coin flip whether I go to that game or the next one, which is Counties Manukau versus Waikato, or whether I try and make both, because I think they start within about 20 minutes of each other, and I'm not sure I would have time to get between them. But
jump on the M1, you'll probably get there, man. You'll miss about 15 minutes, Paul.
Yeah, I might miss the first half of Counties versus Waikato. Counties Waikato have Luke Jacobson back. He was going to be their captain this season, but he got called up to the All Blacks. So he'll be, when you get the person you're thinking of having as your captain back, that's massive. So they'll be really happy to have him back. But Counties for me are going to produce a very similar problem for Waikato as they faced last weekend against Bay of Plenty. Another very strong scrum, another very strong set piece, and the Waikato couldn't do it against Bay of Plenty. I think there's a good chance they won't be able to do it against Counties. So I'm going Counties by 5. Maybe I'm being a bit too optimistic after their game and jumping on the bandwagon against North Harbour, but I think Waikato are going to face a very similar team as they face this weekend.
Boy, the great thing about the weekend, there's some real, obviously there's the odd game where you can pretty much pick where it's going to go, but this is another tight game. So I've got a little voice telling me Waikato are going to come up with a performance. So I'm going to go Waikato.
Okay.
By 10 and under.
By 10 and under. Taranaki versus Northland down in the Naki. I'm going to back the Naki in that one by 7. They've managed to get themselves a couple of wins so far. So I think they'll close that one out.
Yeah, I think so. Taranaki, I'll probably go. I think Northland will be way better than what they were against Auckland. You'll see Jack Debrasini slot back into first 5. I think you'll probably see Sam Kidd, the big, tall, rangy lock, come into the starting line up to give them a bigger target to hit. But unfortunately, the Naki down in New Plymouth, they're a hard mob to beat down there. I think they'll be up for that, and they'll be too good.
And I think they'll be bringing back their top players like Waisaki Naholo, etc. I think they're rested for this weekend against Manawatu, where they thought they could rest a few players. And then finally, Southland versus North Harbour. North Harbour by 10. Sorry, Southland. I can't see where their win's going to come from this season.
Yeah, maybe even more. You hope that they can pull off a win, but I think even North Harbour will have just probably a little bit too much class. Although one thing I will basically say, and I was going to basically mention it when we actually did the review for the Counties Manukau North Harbour game. Listen, couple of key losses for North Harbour. Carl Tunukiafi out.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much is out with injury, and they've also lost Nick Mayhew as well, which looked a pretty serious injury. So all of a sudden their their front row stocks are just starting to hurt. So they may not have that same sort of dominance at scrum time that they've had in periods of the 2 games that they've played this season thus far. But really and truthfully, they're a premiership side, and they should be too strong for Southland. So I think they'll beat them by about 15 points.
So, yeah, I've gone by 10. So there we go, folks. That's how we see round 3. I will be at, as I say, unfortunately, because of where the games are, Auckland versus Bay of Plenty and Counties versus Waikato are the only 2 games I can get to. And because they're back-to-back, I'm not sure how I'm going to handle that. So those are the 2 games I will try and get to this weekend. And thank you to Sky, Sky TV have said, yes, I can film within grounds. So I don't have to run outside to do my halftime reviews, etc. I will not be doing videos of any of the pitch. Don't worry, so you won't be able to get to see any gameplay through me. But I will keep you up to date with match previews, halftime, and full-time reviews for the games I'm at. So thank you very much, Stephen. Steve H. What's your Twitter handle again? I've gone blank.
Oh God, I've forgotten it myself. H.Stephen send it 3 _ something or other. H. Oh,
there we go.
God.
Absolutely.
I don't know.
Follow him there if you want to hear his Twitter murmurings. At DrivingMaul for me, as you probably know, and there'll be a whole bunch of things around the screen for those who do on the recording of YouTube, things to click, such as down there. Sorry. You can become a supporter of DrivingMaul. Help me get to as many games as I can by clicking on there, which is patreon.com/DrivingMaul. Become a member for as little as $1 a month.